habits lead to late nights, sitting alone, conversations with a stranger I barely know, swearing this will be the last, but it probably won't. I got nothing left to lose or use or do. My bad habits lead to white eyes staring into space, and I know I lose control of the things that I say. Yeah, I was looking for a way out.
Hi everyone, it's so great to be here. Thank you to Michael and everyone who made this amazing event happen, and the lovely venue staff, my fellow speakers, and all of you for coming along. It's been a really nice event. I have a lot of resources and links and stuff in my slides today, so if you'd like to quickly grab a snapshot of that QR code to access them. And the URL is bit.ly/Laracon-2023-accessibility-habit. I forgot the word testing in there. Okay, hope you're all feeling energized after lunch. I had no idea what was going on just now from backstage, what Michael was doing, but it was fun. All right, I would like to acknowledge that we're joined here today on the lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of this land, and pay my respects to elders, both past and present. So my name is Larene, pronounced Larene. I'm a software engineer who it's the first question, just get it over and done with. Software engineer who specialises in accessibility. I'm currently at Canberra, as Michael mentioned. And yeah, I have a lot to cover, so I'll get on with it. Bright flash warning and audience participation warning. How much experience do you have with digital accessibility? If you could grab the QR code on the screen, or you can join on slido.com, 8003-131. I would love to know. I was going to ask for a raise of hands, but I actually literally cannot see anyone very well right now. So this is a great way to do it. All right, first one's in, first cab's out the rank. I always find this really interesting. Awesome, so we've got 40% had to do it on a project once or twice, 30% heard of it, 13% doing it pretty often, 7% never heard of it, awesome, and 4% doing it every day, and they're just kind of going up and down a bit. That's cool. All right. So many of us want to do accessibility, but many of us don't know where to start, and I hope to talk about that today. But let's start from the very beginning. What is digital accessibility for folks who haven't heard of it? Maybe you were joking, I'm not sure. But before we start talking about digital accessibility, let's start talking about the D word. It's okay to say disability. There's kind of two main ways that people with disabilities might want to self-reference or prefer to be referred to. So the first one is person first language, people with disability, and the second one is identity first language, or disabled people. So you might say a person who is blind, or a blind person, a person with autism, or an autistic person. Everyone's different, everyone has different preferences. And as language evolves over time, there are some words that we can probably avoid saying now. I know I've said many of these words in the past, but it's language that isn't helping, I guess, it encourages negative connotations on disability and just makes it, we need to normalise talking about and saying the word disability. So things like diffability, handicapped, handicapable, special needs, differently abled. Some folks might still prefer this, and that's fine for self-referring, but these are generally words that we avoid saying now. Just say disability. Make it easy to talk about, normalise it. So disability also is not binary, it's a spectrum, and someone's needs can change dramatically from day to day and over time as well, and absolutely everybody is different. I don't have nearly enough time to dive into, that's very bright, nearly enough time to dive into kind of the nuances of talking about disability, but I think it's a very important first step to building an accessibility testing habit, is understanding why, which is to, spoiler alert, build products for people with disabilities. with people with disabilities. So on the screen, I've got author Emily Ladau, disability activist, and her amazing book, Demystifying Disability. Absolutely recommend. It is a great book. I have a copy here today. Go and buy it. So, back to the question, what is digital accessibility? I already spoiled the answer, but it's building digital products that are inclusive of people with disabilities. And on the screen, I have 12 badges that show different categories of disabilities. Some you may have heard of, some you may not. So things like vision, cognitive, speech, learning, communication, mental illness, neurological, and something important to consider is also when people have multiple disabilities. But we don't have blind customers. I've heard this a lot when I was a freelance consultant in accessibility. And it's a great question because people are trying to understand. And what I say is accessibility is not just about blind people, it's about the whole spectrum of disability and whether they are situational, temporary, or permanent. And I did a talk many years ago at an online car selling company. I cheekily called it, but blind people don't drive. So my dad's blind, and yes, I would never get into a car with him, that would be very unsafe. However, my dad hasn't always been blind, and if he could, he would definitely buy and research cars online if he was making a car purchasing decision for the family, which he likes to do all the time. But what if you created a digital product with accessibility in mind? What does that look like? What could that achieve? So Turn 10 Studios and Xbox Game Studios created a racing simulator called Forza. You might have heard of it, by co-designing with a blind accessibility gaming consultant. I'm about to show a video of a content creator and blind gamer called Ross Minor, amazing reviewer and accessibility consultant as well. He did an accessibility review after playing Forza for several months. All right. Hopefully the sound's not too loud.
But now I'm on partial assists for everything. And the amazing thing about this is that I've seen blind drivers who have much less assist than I do. And so the fact that they're able to get that good and get down to that level is just awesome. And it wouldn't have been done if it weren't for these accessibility features. So just so happy to see that. So yeah, I'm gonna show an example of my driving when I first began playing the game on Twitch and where my driving is at now, just to highlight how much better I've gotten already. So here is the video of me driving on Twitch. I'm not paying attention. Okay. As you can see, I'm literally all over the place. But here is a video of me driving now.
Score 1.0. Personal best for segment elevator vent.
All right. In case you're wondering, there are a lot of audio cues. You couldn't quite hear it over the speaker, but there's just beeps and stuff that help blind folks to drive in Forza. And a bunch of other awesome accessibility features too. If you're interested, please follow Ross on Twitter and YouTube, and a huge thank you to Ross who responded so quickly when I asked if I could share a clip of his recent review. I thought it was really cool. So the game industry actually has had a huge movement in accessibility in the last few years, and I'm here for it. If something as complicated as a video game can be made to be accessible, then we web developers don't really have an excuse. On the screen, I've got Diablo 4, Forza, Hi-Fi Rush, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Mortal Kombat 1, Street Fighter. They're all going for awards in the Game Awards coming up, for Accessibility Awards, sorry. And Last of Us Part 2 has amazing accessibility features and I think can be played completely unassisted by blind gamers. And God of War Ragnarok is really, really good too. All right, so what is assistive technology? So assistive technology is a device, either software or equipment, that helps people do something that they otherwise would find difficult or impossible. And I wanted to talk through assistive technology before talking about testing is because what if you, would you be able to design a wheelchair ramp if you had never heard of a wheelchair before? you didn't know how it worked. So if we can understand assistive technologies, then we understand what we're designing for and how to test, but always make sure to remember to co-design and test with real users of those assistive technologies. So some really common assistive technologies are screen readers, so the robotic voices that read out what's happening on devices on the screen. Voice recognition or voice control, magnifier and zoom apps, captions, text-to-speech, switch control are just some of the few more common assistive technologies that people use to interact with their devices. It's really a great first step to understand how people use assistive technologies to experience the web and apps and stuff like that. What I've got on the screen is a bunch of links of videos made by an awesome accessibility consultancy called Tetralogical in the UK. They've done some really nice demos of how people who use assistive technologies interact with the web. So please do go watch those. Oh, they were just meant to be nice placeholders. Here is another less known type of assistive technology, generally used by people with mobility issues. I wanted to share this example because it makes it really clear why things like more complicated UI like drag and drop are often inaccessible. So when they don't have alternatives like keyboard interaction or like single point interaction.
Have you ever wondered how a person with disability could use a touchscreen device like an iPhone or an iPad if they lack the movement to be able to reliably touch the screen? Well, switch control is a free and included accessibility feature that Apple introduced into their iOS in 2013 with iOS version 7. And it allows a user to interact with an Apple device without needing to directly touch the screen, instead using an external device like a jelly bean button, sip and puff switch, or even a wheelchair joystick as their input device. Such an external device can be connected via cable or Bluetooth and can mimic regular screen touches by controlling a movable on-screen selector in a process traditionally referred to in the disability community as switch scanning.
So that's the switch control. And if you're interested, Adobe have made a design system called Spectrum, and their React version of that has a really good example of how to design a accessible drag and drop component. So how does it all fit together? So as web developers, we write HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and then we send that to the browser, and the browser will turn that into what's called a DOM tree. And that's what you kind of when you inspect the UI with developer tools. That's kind of what you see, all the HTML elements there. And what the browser also does is takes that DOM tree and renders it into a visual UI. So that's the pictures you see, the text you see, headings, whatnot. It's all there. And then on top of that, it also renders an accessibility tree, which not many people know. So what it does is it turns components of the DOM tree or of the HTML and JavaScript and CSS and turns it into a bunch of elements that, or an API that assistive technology will interact with. So it will say that an image is an image, a button is a button, and things like that, which is why semantic HTML is so important. All right, another audience engagement, bright flash warning. Next round, what types of accessibility testing do you currently do? All right, cool. We're coming down from 100% none. That's great. All right. Whoa, there's so many responses. All right, so about 30% test with just keyboard, 20% run automated tests, 17% with a screen reader. Whoa, that's nice. 3% other. Keen to know what other is, that's cool. And I ironically cannot read how many tests with disabled users. 1%. All right. I would like to talk to you. Come see me after. You're not in trouble. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, everyone, for answering that. It's always really interesting. And this is why I'm here. There's more work to do. All right, so how do you do accessibility testing? So automated testing is generally does an analysis of your HTML and HTML and CSS, and is able to detect a bunch of issues like missing alt text on images, missing labels on forms, color contrast, things like that. It can generally only pick up around 20 to 40%, depending on what paper you read, of all accessibility issues. But quick quiz, what percent of the top 1 million homepages fail automated accessibility testing? 90, 100, 98, 95? All right. 96.3%. That is actually lower than when I first did talks like this in 2019. It was like 98. So it's coming down. We're getting there. Maybe another 100 years. All right. And then there's manual testing. I won't talk too much about this now. That is the rest of the show. But that's testing with assistive technology and keyboard and stuff. Very important to do. Accessibility audits. So getting an agency or consultancy to do a professional audit, really, really useful. Even if you haven't started doing accessibility testing internally, it's great to get an audit just to see where you're at. Have a benchmark to start with. Testing with disabled people, I absolutely recommend. There are agencies that do usability testing and recruit people with various disabilities as participants and help to engage them to test your product as well. And this is a gazillion times more valuable than doing an audit. Every time I do some user research session with someone who maybe uses a screen reader, I always learn a ton of new things. Even better than testing with disabled people is co-designing and testing with disabled people. So just like with the example with Forza, you have that fast feedback cycle so that you can really make it accessible from the get-go, if you can. Okay. So who has read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear? Oh, I shouldn't have asked for hands up. Like 20 or so? Bit more? Yeah, thank you. Greg mentioned a really, really great quote from it in his talk yesterday. And I thought that building accessibility testing habit can borrow some of the concepts from James's book that are really useful. So 4 laws of behavior change. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying. You don't have to read the book anymore. Why is testing for accessibility so hard? So when I was freelancing and even today working with people who may be newer to accessibility and testing, I hear things like, I feel like I'm guessing, I have no idea what I'm doing. Is this how real users do this? I don't know. It rarely satisfies the 4 laws of behavior change. It's not obvious, it's not easy, it's not attractive, and it often leaves you more confused when you started. Some people will tell you accessibility is easy. Don't believe them. So the first step is let's apply these 4 laws. Let's make it easy. And honestly, the best thing you can do is have a checklist. Build a checklist, and I have provided one today of things to test. And that is knowing what to test instead of just kind of whipping out the screen reader and trying to do things. Is having a checklist is really, really useful. Make sure you have the tools, all the tools installed. There's a bunch of tools that are so useful for accessibility testing. Most of them are free. Make sure they're installed so that they're ready to go when you want to do testing. Have a bunch. Know what the shortcuts are for those tools so that you can open them whenever. Buy test devices or a VM. So if you thought cross-browser testing was hard, cross-browser, cross-screen reader testing Testing on the real devices and testing on Windows and Mac is super, super valuable. Most screen reader users are on Windows. I'm on Mac, I have a Parallels VM, and I have Windows and NVDA on that. Start small, so don't try to get to screen reader testing from the get-go. I've broken the checklist up into small chunks so that you can start with something that is really easy to understand while you're learning to test with a screen reader. And something I recommend is getting really good recording software, and this is not just for accessibility testing, but testing in general, like being able to screencast your bugs with Keycaster, with like your keystrokes on the screen is super handy to be able to do really quickly so that you can test, file a bug, put it in Slack, put it in Jira. Super, super helpful. Make it obvious. So how do we keep it top of mind? So now you've got your checklist, you put it in your PRs, you put it in your Jira tickets, they're everywhere. Block out some time in your calendar, stick up posters back in the days when we worked in offices, have test parties, do it with the team, and if you do it more, put it into the handbook or the wiki so that when you're onboarding new people, they can read about this and learn about it as well. Make it attractive. So how do we make people enjoy it or feel good about doing it? Check boxes, when you check them, they give a little bit of dopamine. So that's why I like checklists as well. It feels good to get that, like, work through a task. Doing it as a team is fun. You can help each other out and learn things. Use really, really nice tools. There's a bunch of accessibility testing tools. I find them really nice to use, but everyone has their own preferences. I think, like, we're all here at a conference. We all love learning. This is learning. Learning about accessibility is fun. And while doing it, we're helping make things more inclusive. And something to do is, if you are managing a team, for example, reward your team members for doing it. Give them a kudos, a shout out. Make it a part of the team culture. Make it satisfying. So how do we know that it's working? So we're fixing the bugs and we're testing them again and then they're gone. And then we can also get feedback for users, so make sure you have an accessible way for people to get in touch with you. Easiest is a simple page with an email address because you might accidentally make your contact form inaccessible. Track progress, so doing regular testing, doing regular audits, doing regular user testing, you can keep measuring, having ways to measure like whether you're improving over time. Testing with users is going to hurt the first time, but I promise it does get better, and as you do it more regularly and you get more fast feedback, you will. It's very rewarding to see people being able to use your product. Audit results is part of tracking progress, and just having a generally better quality product is very nice. So, how to get started? Install the tools, make the checklists, and do the thing. It's that simple. I'm going to show animated GIFs of a series of tools that I use, just to, kind of do like a here is the tool, here's how to use it. It's not some mysterious thing. Make it more familiar so you'll be more likely to pick it up. So the first tool I want to share is a Chrome plugin called Axe Dev Tools. It is an automated accessibility scanner, and so you just install it in Chrome and then you open the developer tools and you go to the tab and you run a scan on the page. In this GIF, I'm running a scan, or pretending to run a scan on Laracon AU website. Don't show you the results. It's actually pretty good. Next one. Another Chrome plugin. So this is called Zoom Text Only. I only recently discovered this one. And it's different from, regular Zoom, where you're kind of doing Command plus, Command minus to zoom in general. This is only bumping up the text size because a lot of folks with maybe low vision or maybe more senior folks set their font size really, really high or really, really large. And that's where you can really test whether it's like rems or ems or pixels or whatever you need to get your page to zoom in when the text is big properly. So that's super handy. Headings Map, another Chrome plugin. I got a doggo in here. So this is the Wikipedia page for Doggo Lingo. and opening the Chrome plugin to go through to make sure the heading order on the page is logical. Wikipedia is very good about this, so just making sure you have the heading level 1, followed by heading level 2s, followed by heading level 3s, just to make sure that the headings, this is really useful for screen reader users to navigate around the page. Dark background light text, this is a Firefox plugin, and it is a great simulator if you don't have Windows of high contrast mode on Windows. Which has a bunch of, which is really important to test because a lot of people who have low vision or light sensitivity will use high contrast mode, and it overwrites a lot of your CSS and colors. This is an app on Mac and Windows and also Linux, Color Oracle. It simulates color vision deficiencies of various types, most famous being blue-green color blindness. I use it generally for grayscale, and I've got a chart on the screen with showing area, countries, regions with higher CO2 emissions. Oh, I just picked a random chart. And when it's in grayscale, you can kind of see there's no difference between two of the areas, and so it's not very accessible for people who might not be able to see colour in the same way as others. This is great. Another app on Mac and Windows is TPGI Color Contrast Analyzer, or CCA. I'm on the screen, I'm using it to test the color contrast of the light pink and dark pink brand that I decided to choose for today's presentation. Very easy, just use color pickers, and you don't even have to memorize what the color ratio should be. It tells you in the analyzer itself. So what they all have in common is minimal friction. So they're there's a shortcut, you can just do a test in a couple of seconds when you have some spare time. And on the screen I have the full testing tools list that I use. Browser plugins, mobile, make sure to test on screen readers on mobile and tablet, and also Mac and Windows. The URL again is bit.ly/laracon-2023-accessibility-habit. Yeah, all the download links are there, and that is my usual setup. All right, now, last but not least, the promise testing checklist. Okay, so this is a checklist that I've built up over the years. It will not get everything, always do an audit, but it is a relatively good amount of checks to do that will get a lot of the issues before it gets to the audit. So the starter checklist, crank up the browser zoom to 400% and see if anything breaks. Crank up the text zoom using the plugin to 200%, see if anything breaks. You can keep bumping it up if you like. Use Color Oracle to test in grayscale. Use the Firefox plugin to test high contrast, or go into Windows and test high contrast. And these two I haven't covered in this presentation, but check if the animations are disabled. When you set your user preference, you can set whether you want reduced animations. Maybe you're sensitive to animations or flashing colors. And also check if light dark mode is respected based on your user preferences as well. So this is, if you do this for like a couple of months, that's fantastic. You will get a lot of issues fixed. The next checklist, next level up is the keyboard checklist. So here's a whole lot of things you can check, but using tab and arrow keys to navigate, and using space and enter to interact with buttons and links and so on. So you want to check that a skip link exists. Focus outline is visible all the time, so you know where you are. Focus outline is visible in high contrast mode, so turn on high contrast mode and test. A lot of focus outlines and a lot of design systems do not show up in high contrast mode. Make sure that every element is able to be tabbed to, and check that enter and space work, and make sure you don't get trapped in any text areas or anything like that. On the screen I've got a demo of a really, really good keyboard experience. This is the Gov UK website. And so they highlight their focus in really, really bright yellow. They have a skip link that skips me straight to the search box, and I'm typing in accessibility. I've also got a keycaster showing my keystrokes. So again, that really good recording, easy recording process to demo stuff. And then when I search for it, there's actually a skip link not only to main, but also to skip past all the filters to my first search result to minimize the number of keys that I have to press. Okay, and this is the last one, the assistive tech checklist. This is one that I would tackle after you've done a little bit of training or learning about digital accessibility and learned a bit about screen readers and how to use them. Add these ones in, run automated accessibility tests. I kept this one here because you need a little bit of accessibility knowledge to know how to fix them. And then I've got the ideal testing configurations for testing with screen readers. So on Mac, you should test with Safari, VoiceOver with Safari and not Chrome. They don't work together very well. On Windows, you should test NVDA with Firefox. They're the best pair. JAWS is another screen reader that costs money. So you can test that, but it's the most commonly used. You can test that on Windows with Chrome or Edge. And then on the iPhone, you can test VoiceOver and Safari. Again, on Android, you can test TalkBack and Chrome, TalkBack, VoiceOver, all built into the devices already. So getting started with a screen reader, mainly just watch a bunch of YouTube. I've got the links right here of a great beginner tutorials to learning to use a screen reader. It is quite a learning curve. Don't get discouraged if you don't get it straight away. Memorize the keyboard shortcuts to turn them not only on but off. And then download the screen reader cheat sheets and keep them handy. As someone who doesn't use a screen reader natively, I can never remember the keyboard shortcuts, but there are a bunch of them. So there's some great shortcuts by a company called DQ, or some great cheat sheets by a company called DQ that I usually have on my desk. All right, screen reader demo. Who is feeling brave to offer up their website? Just kidding, I'm not going to do it live. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is testing an accordion in CodePen. Apologies, I grabbed the wrong video. It has a lot of talking at the start, but this is what testing...
Create new pen web content has keyboard focus. System has new window. 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 Head information. Heading level 3. Personal information. Heading level 3. Tool. Full screen. Create a new banner. Heading level 1. Link. Heading level 1. Untitled. Captain
This
Anonymous.
is me
You are
not
currently on a text element.
remembering how to
Name.
use
Required edit text with name.
Okay,
Heading
now we're
level
good.
3. Heading level 3. Personal information. Expanded button. Personal information. Collapsed button.
pressing space.
Personal information.
Close the
Expanded button.
recording.
Name. Required edit text with autofill menu. Email. Required edit text with autofill menu. Phone. Edit text with autofill menu. Extension. Edit text. Country. Edit text with autofill menu. City/province. Edit text with autofill menu. Billing address. Collapsed button. You are currently on a heading level 3. Inside of a frame. Heading level 3. Shipping address. Last heading. Heading level 3. Shipping address. Heading level 3. Heading level 3. Personal information. Expanded button. You are currently on a heading level 3.
Okay, I'll leave that there. So that was a good experience. That was a very, very accessible accordion. And for first-time kind of screen reader users, it does feel very overwhelming with the amount of words and the speed of the words that the screen reader is saying, but that's actually the equivalent of skim reading, and you do get used to that. So that is actually a really, really nice screen reader experience. So yeah, that is me. Thank you so much for having me. There's a bunch of resources at the end of the slides.
That's awesome. Thanks for that, Larene. We had accessibility talks last Laracon, accessibility talks this Laracon. I don't think it gets enough exposure specifically in the Laravel community, so it's nice to have something like that. Is Windows the better operating system for accessibility in general? If so, is macOS improving, or are they both?
Annoying answer is it depends. Everyone has different preferences, but most screen reader users are on Windows, just because I guess it's been around a little bit longer, and Microsoft has just been kind of earlier from an accessibility point of view.
Yep. Is there, do you have to deal much with accessibility concerns that negatively impact non-disabled users?
Oh, spicy question. All right. I think Sam might have mentioned it yesterday, but and this is a great question and comes up quite often, is does accessibility mean that you have to make it ugly or a worse experience for folks. And actually, it's a set of constraints that you have to work in to make an experience that is actually better for everyone. If that answers the question, it generally improves the experience because you are taking into account a bunch of different user needs and making it better for all of them.
Nice.
I wish I had an example, but my brain's just shut down.
No,
The
that's
talk is
okay.
over.
This is a Laravel conference, so we have to ask, does Canva use Laravel at all? That you know of?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay. All right. No worries. Thank you, Larene.